I think you're ready. Well, allow me the pleasure to introduce to you our first speaker of the day, Miss Tiffany Dena Loftin.
Yeah, thank you. Testing, testing. What's up, Power Shift? You all successfully survived day 2. Can y'all give yourselves a round of applause, please? I need y'all to be a little bit more hyped than that. Can you please give yourselves a huge round of applause for finishing day 2 of Power Shift in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. My name again is Tiffany. I'm away. Oh, okay, that works. My name again is Tiffany Dena Loftin. I am your Power Shift coordinator. A lot of the work that you all see has been because of the awesome dedication, hard work, and blessing of the staff. So I would just ask that as you all continue to sit here tonight, just give our staff a huge round of applause. They've been working extremely hard to pull this all together. And we only got here a day before you all did to plan this and have this in this awesome convention center. My story, if you don't know who I am, some of y'all do know who I am, but those who don't and see me run around here with my headset on, I'm from Los Angeles, California originally. Represent, that's why I said that yesterday. And I'm the oldest of 3. My mother moved from New Orleans, Louisiana, from a family of 10 to Los Angeles to go to community college. And I'm first generation to go to a 4-year university. I went to UC Santa Cruz, which is why I shouted out the Gauchos earlier. And graduated from there and moved straight to DC to serve as president for the United States Student Association. I just finished my term there in August, but as I was coming through college, there were a lot of things that happened in my life that affected my perception of access and affordability for higher education and communities of color on universities across the system. And so the work that you all have been talking about today and your own personal stories, your own perspective that you bring to this conference is about environmental justice, it's about climate change, but it's also about justice for communities of color. It's about environmental movements, it's about immigration rights, it's about voting rights, it's about all the things that you all have talked about this weekend, and I hope that you all are taking advantage of the agency that you all have. This is not Energy Action Coalition's conference, this is your conference. We provided the space. And when we created Power Shift for this year and brought all these really awesome people together, it was so that you all can take advantage of all these conversations and spaces. And I almost teared up. I'm kind of like running on adrenaline, but I almost teared up today when I saw you all in circles on the 2nd and 3rd and 4th floor, sitting in your own conversations and talking and taking advantage of the space. This is your opportunity this year. This is your opportunity right now to meet people from all across the country who you either have never met before or will probably never see again, to exchange personal stories and perspectives, to talk about really important things in dialogue, to talk about identities and to talk about families and to talk about change and justice and when you go back to school, what you're going to do. And it's so inspiring to be in this space. This is my first time at Power Shift. It's so inspiring to have you all here talking about all of those things and taking advantage of that. I want to make sure that I give you all a goal. If there's one thing that you all do for me, can I ask y'all for one thing? Well, I'm asking you to 2 things. 1, whose first time is it at Power Shift like me? Dude! Wait, do that one more time. Whose first time is it at Power Shift? Damn. Okay, that's exciting. Welcome to Pittsburgh. Welcome to Power Shift. So this is the second thing I'm going to ask from you. A really good friend of mine is teaching me something that I'm practicing more and more, and it's about how we create movements. A lot of folks have been frustrated with like turning on a switch to create a movement or watching a television show or getting inspiration from a different country or whatever. The movement has already started and you are in it. You were born for such a time as this. You came to this conference for a reason. And so as you all are here, I want you all between now and April of 2015, which is my birthday, to build 5 relationships with 5 new people and build 5 new leaders, and then have those 5 people recruit 5 more people to build more leaders. So at the end of 2015, each person in this room should have 25 leaders that they are developing and building. 25, each person in this room. And if you don't know how to do it, talk to me. If somehow you got in this room, somebody developed you to get here. They even asked you at a cafeteria, they asked you on the dorm room, they called you, they emailed you, you saw it on Facebook, and you came. That's all it takes. We cannot do this if we don't grow, if we don't build in our own communities, if we don't have indigenous leaders to fight for the things that we want. Do y'all promise to do that for me? Perfect. Do you promise to do that for me? Thank you. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to run you all through the lineup. Some of y'all complained yesterday because you didn't know who was performing and speaking. So today we have Hareth Andrade from United We Dream. We have Tom Steyer coming. We have Kimberly Wasserman coming. Luis Perales, Kandi Mossett, Mike Brune. Then the concert is going to start. And I saw how some of y'all decided to leave yesterday. You better stick around because the biggest name comes at the end of the concert, not the beginning. So, well, the beginning too. So you stay through the whole entire thing. We have DJ Uncle Ron, of course. We have Ninja. We have Big Crit. And we have Chippy. So y'all should stick around and make sure you party in the concert. You don't have to stay in your seats. You can come to the front and boogie with us. Thank you all so much. God bless y'all. Thank you for being here. Shout outs to Power Shift. And I want to give a huge, huge, warm introduction to our first keynote speaker, Hareth Andrade from United We Dream.
Glad I'm in the right place. As soon as I turned 8, as if planned, I was destined to be awakened by these 3 words: freedom, justice, and healing. My parents, Betty and Mario, were born in a poor town inside Bolivia, Potosí, called Uyuni. They met in the city, got married, had 2 children. I was their first. I spent my first 2 years of school studying at the American Institute and migrated to the US in 2001 with my grandparents and my little sister. I still remember packing my clothes into a tiny pink suitcase about this big, holding my sister's hand at the airport, and the last hug and goodbye kiss from my parents for the next 4 years. But at this age, all I knew was that my parents had been denied a visa. So I was forced to wait. There was no other choice at hand than to familiarize myself with the unfamiliar. At this age, I thought that the US was Disneyland, movie stars, fancy cars. But soon I realized that this wasn't the life. When I saw my little sister, my aunt, my grandparents sleeping in one bedroom, when my aunt worked 3 jobs just to be able to provide for us, and when I was left alone, when my grandfather passed away and my grandmother moved back to Bolivia. But life had to continue. I learned English by watching John Stamos in Full House. I went to school, and it wasn't hard to fall in love with the American culture. I was just like everybody else. And by the time I was in 6th grade and my little sister started 2nd grade, both of my parents arrived. And that's when I realized that my family came here searching for a better life. And a better life to me meant success, and success was education. So I wanted to go to college. Since 6th grade, by my 2nd year of high school, I had volunteered in a campaign for a school board chair, Dr. Emma Viola Sanchez, who became the first woman, Latina, in the school board in Arlington, Virginia. had taken initiative to volunteer and advocate to close the Latino achievement gap and started the first student-parent network in Arlington called the Arlington Latino Network. And I was sure with my extracurricular activities, basketball and AP classes, I was gonna get into any college that I wanted. Sure, I knew that my family was poor, but there were scholarships out there, right? FAFSA. Until one day my mom sat me down. She said, Hareth, you're a bright girl, and I support you, but we don't have papers. So I said, we're illegal? Placed in a category, a shelf, a cell, incarcerated in the words, sentenced without conviction. But I got the courage to tell one of my counselors. And that day he said to me, you are not alone. There are students just like you in this school. That's right. And that's all I needed. By senior year, I had gone to lobby in the Senate for the DREAM Act. I'd circulated a petition amongst my friends, which became the first petition for the DREAM Act in my school district. I was able to, thank you, I was able to co-found a nonprofit with the school board chair, who was Dr. Emma, still, called the Dream Project nonprofit, that would help undocumented students with scholarship in Virginia. I learned of the beginnings of a new organization called United We Dream, and I found myself witnessing the DREAM Act vote in the Senate gallery. I remember that day. I went to DC with my friend and her mom, and we met at this church where there were hundreds of students just like us. We hadn't met before, but they all were fighting for the same thing. They all had hope. And in that line, as we entered the Senate, I remember talking to people from Kentucky in the line, talking from people from New York who had come here, some walking because they couldn't drive, just to be able to witness the voting of the DREAM Act. And as we sat in the gallery, we held hands. The votes got closer and closer, and I closed my eyes. And by the time I opened them, I saw people crying. We had lost the DREAM Act by 5 votes. And we got up, but it wouldn't be the last time that they would see us there, because that day we gathered in the center of the Capitol and chanted, "Undocumented and unafraid." And it was the first time that I had joined to chant. And that day I said, I would not give up until I see my undocumented brothers and sisters with documentation, until we don't see any more families suffering. But now, I'm working on my dad's deportation case. Although there are groups across the nation, we need your help. We cannot see any more families suffering because of unjust laws. I believe we are all part of one world. Taking care of your land is the same as taking care of your neighbor, because whether consciously or subconsciously, we have made it this way. I am part of this world. I am human. But Congress refuses to see that because I lack a piece of paper. The immigrants' rights movement has yet to see freedom. I can't help but feel trapped when I see my father's hands blister from work all day and he doesn't feel like he has a say. Man-made borders are separating our world and our families. This year we celebrated 50 years since Dr. King spoke on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. In that time, there were laws that said that segregation was okay. And he said an unjust law is no law at all. And I'm here to say that history repeats itself. And pain repeats with it. My mother never asked me to do great things. She said, do things with great care and sacrifice. And never be afraid of personal wounds. I hope that we can see how together we can solve all that is affecting our world. Because we are Power Shift. Thank you.
It is really great to be here in Pittsburgh with thousands of people who have one idea, that it is critical and urgent for us to act quickly and decisively on climate and energy. And it is a fantastic night because I think everybody in this room must know in their hearts that it's actually up to us to make this happen. There are going to be no Marines coming over the horizon to save us. And the last place that we can look to for help, and the last place where we're going to succeed, and we will succeed there, is in Washington, D.C. Now, let me admit a few things before I go any further. I am slightly older than most of the people in this room. I have a kid who is a freshman in college, and he is the youngest of my wife's and my 4 children. I've been a 30-year professional investor and businessman in San Francisco, investing around the world on behalf of college endowments and foundations. And just in case you've Googled me, I am on the list of the 400 richest Americans. But I completely stopped my business career at the end of last year in order to work for a change in policy in climate and energy. And you may wonder why somebody would make that kind of decision. And the reason is because no one else was doing it in the business community, and somebody had to. So let's ask ourselves what we're doing in Pittsburgh on a Saturday night talking about energy and climate. Well, we have a rule in California that anything worthwhile has got to be both fun and productive. And believe it or not, this seems like a hell of a lot of fun to me. But honest to God, that's not enough. Because I think everybody here knows that we are in the fight of our lives. And this fight is not about science. The most recent UN report was 95 to 100% sure that what everybody here thinks is going on is going on. It's not about science. And this is not a complicated policy question, even though people want to pretend it is. We have dealt with pollution before. There's a very simple rule about pollution. The polluter pays. It's not rocket science. We've done this before successfully in the United States of America. And let me make one more point. This is not the Harvard-Yale debating society. This is very much, at this point, about politics. This is a political fistfight in an alley. And the question we have to ask ourselves is, how are we going to win the fistfight? Because we're up against the biggest, richest industry in the history of the world. So that's actually what I came to talk to you about tonight. So I've co-chaired, starting in 2010, but also in 2012, in California, we have this crazy tradition of propositions where you put ideas on the ballot. And I co-chaired with a 92-year-old Republican who's one of my best friends, 2 energy propositions that got between 60 and 70% of the vote, both of which people thought couldn't win. We've also been fighting in elections across the United States, and believe me, we like to win, and we think that we know how to win on the ground. So let me talk about that. How are we going to win politically in 2013? And the answer is, we're going to win in 2013 and 2014 and 2016 the same way that politics happened in 1800 in the United States of America. We are going to do it with people. And let me start with the people in this room. There is no major change in American society since the Revolution, and right down to the fight for marriage equality, that has not had people who were what I would call identity warriors. They thought that the fight was the most important thing in their life and was central to who they are. There's an old saying about America: Americans always do the right thing after they try everything else. Well, in this case, if you look at the polls, and I'm a fairly obsessive poll reader, Americans believe what we believe to the tune of about 70%. The issue is not to convince people of the truth. The issue is to convince people of the importance of the truth. In politics, if 100% of the people believe something, but they won't change their vote based on it, that is irrelevant. Polls only matter when people say, if you don't do what I want, I won't vote for you, I will vote you out of office, your history. That is actually how you get the attention of elected officials. And let me say this. In California, we have had a very different political strategy than the traditional one on environmental issues. We have worked for and built and had a very broad coalition. So that does not mean, we've always had students, we've always had people who are worried about the environment, but we've also had organized labor, and we've had business groups on our side every time. That's how you get 60 to 70% of the vote. And let me make one other point that I feel I ethically and morally should always make. In California, the group of people who vote consistently the best on these issues, about 20% better than the average, are Latinos. Number 2 group, Asian Americans. And number 3 group, African Americans. What people think, the cliched image of an environmentalist is very different from the people who actually show up at the polls and vote this way. And we've seen it consistently, and we're never going to make this change in the United States until we reach broadly to the people of the United States. And let me make one more point in terms of using people. We are actually going to have to be fearless in this fight. Because I actually think that we're at a point where we actually have nothing to lose. When we've been in this fight, we're fighting for something that we believe in and that we think is at the core of who we are and what we stand for. We're fighting against people who are basically trying to preserve a P&L. So if we get down, if something goes wrong for us, our instinct is to double down and try twice as hard, because we actually can't afford to lose. But if you're making a risk-reward bet as a business person, when you get down, every dollar you put in, every hour you put in is now a worse investment because you have less odds of winning and you have to spend more money. We have a very different incentive structure, and that is one of the great strengths of the people in this room and of what we're trying to do, because we actually can't afford to lose. Now, let me make one other point. We're going to have to be aggressive. We're going to actually have to take the fight to these people. If you followed what we're trying to do on Keystone, that is an attempt to go forward and change the status quo, to say we're not going to just build another pipeline, we're not just going to develop this gigantic, dirty oil reserve in Canada. We're going to change the status quo. We're going to take the fight to you. And there's an old saying by a great American who's also a generation or two ahead of you guys, named George Foreman. And George Foreman, when he was talking about his boxing career, said, "Everybody has a strategy until I punch him in the face." So what am I going to ask you guys to do today? Not me, please. I'm going to ask you to hold the candidates accountable. As I said, if this isn't the thing that changes your vote, it doesn't matter, and that's what elected officials pay attention to. I think you've got to be mechanistic in the way you think about it, and unless this is moving the needle in terms of their careers, I think they'll be very polite, I think they'll listen, but I don't think it'll change what they'll do. This is very much of a political problem at this point, which means we are all called upon to vote, to register our friends, to be active. And I think, as Martin Luther King said, if you're going to be active on behalf of something, you have to go through a self-purification process. You have to ask yourself about your own carbon footprint. Now, do I think that's going to change what really happens? No. In World War II, we had victory gardens. People grew vegetables to prove that they cared and to support the war effort. Did we win World War II because of victory gardens? No. We won World War II because we stopped making cars in Detroit and people did things that were extraordinary and very risky. But the point is, if we're going to stand up for something, we've got to be consistent and we can't be hypocritical. So I view myself as an ordinary American. I view you guys as ordinary Americans too. I'm sure we're all very patriotic, and I'm not saying that snidely, I'm saying that sincerely. We need you as much as you need us. And let me say this, although we are ordinary Americans, I believe the times require that we do extraordinary things together. Thank you very much.
All right, Power Shift. Next up, we have Dan Cannon.
Power Shift! I've always wanted to do that. My name is Dan Cannon. 6 years ago, I found myself at the very first Power Shift. The moment that rocked me and changed my life forever came in a plenary session just like this one. I looked around at the thousands of other young people just like me and just like you and decided right then and there to dedicate my life to standing up for the climate. We are a movement of people who will risk everything to stand up to governments who have failed us and to corporations who are making money while they kill us. We are the people who will link arms and rise up to ensure a livable future with a healthy climate built on social and economic justice. A month ago, 30 climate activists, just like us, headed towards a massive oil platform. They are attempting to draw attention to the absurdity of drilling for oil in the melting Arctic. Today, those 30 activists are sitting in a Russian prison, facing piracy charges that could leave them in prison for the next 15 years. Tonight, I want you to meet those 30 people. Cue the video. Tonight, we're asking for your help. If you support peaceful direct action and holding those causing climate change accountable, I'm asking you to please stand up. Stand up for the Arctic 30. Stand on your feet and raise a peace sign to show that we stand in solidarity so we can send a photo to the Arctic 30. Now, to take individual action, you can sign the petition tonight. To release the activists, text Arctic 30 to 877-877 and follow the link. Text Arctic 30 to 877-877. For the Arctic 30. Thank you.
Power shift. Great pleasure to announce Miss Kimberly Wasserman.
I know that's Molina's voice somewhere. y'all doing? Whew, I am not gonna lie, I am shitting bricks right now. Holy crap. Whew. So first and foremost, thank you very much for having me here today. I had a whole speech ready and I was freaking the people out back there because I was like, I'm not ready yet. I have so much that I want to say, and I just want to make sure that it comes from a space of love and respect and trust and humility. So here goes nothing. So, muy buenas tardes. On behalf of myself, my family, the Little Village Environmental Justice Organization, the Little Village community, 95,000 strong on the southwest side of Chicago, I thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. So when I got that very lovely email from PowerShift asking me if I would come speak here today, I will not lie to you. My first inclination was to say no. No, because I wasn't sure if this was the right space for my voice, the voice of my community, the voice of the organization that I'm privileged to work for. And so I did what any organizer should do. I reached out to those that are my mentors, those that are my friends, those that are our allies, and I asked them, is this a space where I should be at? Is this a space for our young people? Is this a space for our community? And the results came back half and half. The no's believed, or believe, that a true power shift comes from our communities at a local level, where our youth are being invited. Let me back up. The no's believe that a true power shift starts in our communities on a local level with our youth. Instead of being invited to a table that is already set, we should support our young people to create their own table. And people with a commitment to transformation and anti-racism will come to the table that has been set by our communities. The yeses saw an opportunity to share the leadership and vision from our communities on the front lines, and to guide toward the struggles in our own communities and away from big green policy campaigns. Now, why would I come out here today and start off a keynote speech with this? Because the realities of our movement call for tough conversations. Conversations and solutions to the issues of race, class, privilege, funding, and principles are desperately needed in our movement for us to make change. Conversations like these have allowed us to build things like the Chicago Clean Power Coalition that is made up of 50 organizations in Chicago that shut down 2 of the dirtiest coal power plants in this nation. This past September marked the 1-year anniversary of the closure of Crawford and Fisk coal power plants. And while our communities can breathe cleaner air, they find themselves at war. To quote a famous rapper, Common, and you say Shy City. Chicago is a great example of where to start this conversation. And you say Shy City is fighting for economic justice, while our state is selling us out to fracking, shale mining, tire shredding, pet coke plants, and other things that kill the illusion and the dream of economic justice. And you say Shy City should be an investment in our communities and not to corporations. We say to environmental institutions like funders and Big Greens, invest in our communities, not fossil fuels. We can't solve the ecological crisis without solving the economic crisis. And we say, Shy City, support community-based democratic economic shifts. And we say to environmental institutions, invest in promoting local economies. Do not simply move money from dirty energy to dirty tech to dirty banks. Use the principles of ecology to remake our economy. Through the eyes of climate change, the root cause of social injustice, ecological destruction, and economic domination are all intertwined. And so we say to Shy City, and we say to the First Lady of the Shy, Walmart and Whole Foods are not the answer to food deserts. Local food systems that are community and culturally sensitive are. We say to the environmental movement, seed diversity, farmers' knowledge, and food systems are needed to adapt to climate change. Look to our communities. Look to our seeds of life that give recommendations on policies, practices to revive resilient food systems. We say to the Chi and the state of Illinois, we say to the Chi and the state of Illinois, don't let our state fall dependent to the cracked pipe of pipelines and the IV needles of fracking. We say to the environmental complex, stand with us against all fossil fuels, not those that you think are winnable. I come here today because the reality is we need to shift away from the big green policies, and we need to shift to frontline community solutions. Our communities are already beginning to implement real solutions to climate change that chart a path towards a more democratic, ecologically rooted economy. We are breathing in and building local economies, regional food systems, public transportation, clean community energy, efficient and affordable durable housing, ecosystem restoration, and stewardship. We are building community resilience. We are building grassroots economy. We are fighting for land, water, and food sovereignty. We do this because tomorrow is not promised to us. Because any given time, our states officials, our city officials, our partners and allies in Big Greens, unfortunately, will sell us out because that train is moving, because that train has left the station. Well, I am here today because we were told that a long time ago when the thought of closing the coal power plants was thought to be unwinnable. Don't go for closure, go for cleanup. You'll never get closure, get new standards. Well, you know what we said to that train? Excuse my language. We said, fuck you. I'm here today because the young people in Little Village believed in us, and they believed that we could build our own train. We built our tracks off of respect. We built the lines based on humility, because we knew that at the end of the day, 12 plus years to shut down a coal power plant, 15 plus years to get a new park in our neighborhood were walks in the park, because we stayed true to who we are, we stayed true to what our principles are, and we did not let anybody, as much as they threw us under the tracks, as much as they threw us off the bus, we got right back up, cleaned ourselves off, and we stood true to who we are. And so I ask you to think about our communities, to think about privilege, to think about race, to think about class, to think about these things that are so difficult to think about and talk about them, because the reality is there is such a division in our movement that if we cannot come together, they will continue to tear us apart. We need to come together and join hands with the economic fight that's out there, with living wages. We need to be supportive of not just new infrastructure. Shit, let's rebuild our old infrastructure. When it rains in my neighborhood, I worry, am I going to be able to get out? Because the bridges are falling apart, because the viaducts are flooded. We have how many thousands of people in our country unemployed? And the new jobs that are being sold to us are being sold with false solutions like clean coal, false solutions like fracking. We don't need that junk. What we need is an investment in our communities, and we are leading that path. We are fighting that fight, and I invite you. I invite you to look beyond the solutions that are out there. New coal regulations are great. Old coal power plant regulations are great, but what more is out there? Our communities are on the front line. Come out, support. Be part of a real solution. Be part of a real conversation, because Lord knows we need you. We cannot fight this fight without you, and we cannot let class and race and all of these things continue to separate us, people. We cannot. And so I ask you to look in your hearts, look and push the conversation with your groups, push the conversation with the memberships that you are a part of, and make sure that the voices of our frontline communities are really at the table, that we are not being tokenized just to be there. We are not like the polar bears. We do not need to be saved. We are saving our damn selves. And so with that, I thank you very much for the opportunity to be here today. And if anything, I please ask that you use your heart, use your mind, and use your voice, because that is the most important tool that we have to win this fight. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Luis Perales.
Good evening, Power Shift. How's everybody doing? That's what I'm talking about. I'm feeling pretty good too. Seeing all these beautiful people, learning all this beautiful knowledge, and taking this step forward in our movement, this is truly a beautiful moment. To begin with, please allow me to thank each and every one of you for being here this evening. I'd like to especially thank the students, the organizers, the activists, and the mentors who are here tonight. Your passion, your strength, and your dedication is what makes our movement possible. It's also important to remember, though, that we stand on the shoulders of giants. And so I would also like to thank them. We are indebted to those who came before us, whose actions helped to motivate and inspire us to take a stand for the creation of an equitable and sustainable world. This evening, I'd like to take a little bit of time to encourage us all to reflect. The seasons have changed, and now we find ourselves in fall. The earth, in this part of the world at least, is in the process of collecting herself and resting from the hard work and the fruits of her labor. In this moment, I would like for us to connect with this natural rhythm. I know that much of our work is ongoing and extremely demanding. But for just a second, I would like each and every one of us to think about the great work that we have accomplished thus far, the realizations that we have had, and the growth that we have experienced. For a moment, honor yourself and feel the power that is you. Now think about what this means on a collective level. Think about the possibilities that exist when we choose to collectively actualize our power. Let this sink in for just one moment. And now, I ask you, are you ready for a power shift? No, wait a minute. I said, are you ready for a power shift? That's what I'm talking about. Now, I know we're fired up, but the reality is that it's easier said than done. But at this moment, I ask you to recommit. To recommit to your personal struggle. To recommit to our collective struggle. Because only a powerful commitment will give us enough strength to continue our fight for social and environmental justice. Now, I know I haven't introduced myself, so let me do that now. My name is Luis Alberto Perales. I'm a co-founder of TYLO, Tierra Libertad organization, a grassroots group in Tucson, Arizona, who's dedicated to the creation of a model of urban green living that's culturally relevant and socially based. I'm also a Green for All fellow, who's working to create an inclusive green economy strong enough to lift people out of poverty and to strengthen the middle class. But most importantly, I'm a young father. I'm a young father committed to building a community and a world that our children deserve. With this as the backdrop to my message, please allow me to share with you some words about what's going on in my neck of the woods. Arizona. Arizona at a legislative level has and continues to descend on a downward spiral. Many of our decision makers are actively attacking the Latino community through anti-immigrant legislation, actively attacking our education system through the banning of ethnic studies and the banning of books, and destroying our environment through the misuse of natural resources and the continued promotion of mining and other pollution-based industries. Now, many would say that in this situation, there's little hope. But this is where we come in. This is where we come in because we cannot stand by as decision makers engage in careless and reckless behavior. Organizers and activists in Arizona have taken on these and many other issues head on. In the last few weeks, for example, immigration rights organizers have shut down offices of ICE and the kangaroo court known as Operation Streamline. Dreamers have re-entered the U.S. through ports of entry in Arizona. Educators, activists, and community members have found innovative ways to put banned books back in the hands of our young people. And they have found ways to continue to educate our young people in culturally relevant ways. Now, you might ask, what does this have to do with the environmental movement? And why should we care? And to this I respond, because the communities most affected by poverty, discrimination, criminalization, the lack of good schools, etc., are the same communities most impacted by climate change and environmental injustice. And in the words of the great Martin Luther King Jr., injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. For this reason, TYLO has and will continue to find ways to organize across sectors and with those who have the most to gain from our success. Our work stems from building power at the grassroots level so communities can stand up and speak for themselves, because the first access point to community change is to be heard. And again, this is where we come in. As those who have recommitted to our individual and collective struggle, I ask you to go back to your earlier reflection about your accomplishments, your realizations, and your personal growth. Now think about who you worked with to achieve this. Think about all the people that helped and struggled alongside you. Think about the work and the dedication that you witnessed in yourself and in others. And now think about who was missing, who was left out, and who should have been right there next to you. Those are the people that make up our base. Those are the people that not only need to be heard, but also need to help to create the conditions for action. And those are the people that will help us to take our movement to the next level. We need now more than ever to challenge ourselves and to reinvent ourselves in these times. We need to work together and reach across sectors more than ever before. And I recognize that this will not be easy, but it starts with each and every one of us. It can start even now. At this moment, take a look around. Introduce yourself to someone you don't know or haven't had a chance to meet. Thank them for their hard work and dedication, and be willing to appreciate the recognition that they give you. We Power Shift are the people we have been waiting for and the time is now to break down silos, to create new connections that will result in our collective greater good. And to end my talk, I leave you with the words of Mangari Maathai. Today we are faced with a challenge that calls for a shift in our thinking so that humanity stops threatening its life support system. We are called to assist the earth to heal her wounds and in the process, heal our own. Indeed, to embrace the whole of creation and all its diversity, beauty, and wonder, recognizing that sustainable development, democracy, and peace are indivisible as an idea whose time has come. Thank you so much, Power Shift. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
Dear Power Shift, I'm going to ask you a question, but in advance, I'm going to tell you the answer. The answer is I do. So I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to say, come at me, Power Shift. You say, I do. Ready? You're ready. I know you're ready. Who here has a story to share? Okay, you were supposed to wait for come at me, but that was beautiful. Okay, because stories matter, right? Right? Because the alternative to dirty energy isn't just clean energy, right? It's the stories of hope and possibility, right? The alternatives to extreme injustice isn't just extreme justice. It's you. It's your stories of hope and possibility that can get us there. In an era when our movement is losing, one of the most powerful things we can do is tell powerful stories of hope, of possibility, of resistance. Because it's those stories that can inspire our movement to grow 10-fold and 100-fold and get us to a place where we can win. And so, on the way to Power Shift, we followed 9 youth leaders from Tennessee to Texas, from LA to DC, from Pine Ridge to West Virginia. And I want to shout out some of them here and make some noise. Ivan Bermejo, Adam Hall, Olivia Robinson, Sierra Williams, Jenna Gray Eagle, Pablo Gomez, Kristen Collins, Deidre Lally, Brian Menifee. And now you're going to hear from all 3 of the ones that we have on stage with us tonight. Get ready, make some noise.
Hi, my name is Kristen. I'm a Southern Energy Network leader, a student at the University of Tennessee at Knoxville, and I'm a Power Shift junior. Today at UT, students are working to stop administration from leasing out campus lands to the oil and gas industry for a fracking research proposal, and we're working to divest our university from fossil fuels. I am thrilled to say that the university has pulled the plug on the fracking research proposal, and we've made some awesome wins in our divestment campaign with the student body vote and multiple meetings with administration. While these are awesome wins, it's not enough, and we need more. And that's why we came to Power Shift. Power Shift is a great space for us. It is so motivating. There's so much energy in this room, and there's so much passion. And we need that passion in this movement. I believe that the electricity in this room is what this movement needs to finally stand up to the fossil fuel industry and stop climate change. And I think together we can do it. So, Power Shift, I ask you, can we do this? Woo!
Hey, my name is Deirdre Lally. I'm from northeastern Pennsylvania. And hi, friends. So my community back home has been facing the deadly assault of hydraulic fracturing for natural gas. But I've been resisting with groups like Marcellus Shale Earth First, Shale Field Organizing Committee, Shale Field Justice Spring Break. And I believe it's now time to relearn what community really means to us. It's time to seek out and listen to unheard and silenced voices in environmental and social struggles and lift those voices up. We need to support existing, rooted, grassroots-led work and establish long-term relationships. Don't assume you know what a community needs. It's crucial to listen and ask. Go out of your social comfort zones and be willing to do hard base-building work. Build relationships with existing allies, fight where you are, and build community resiliency from the bottom up. Our survival is at stake, and the skills we need are in the hands of each other.
Hello, how's everybody doing out there? That's good to hear, that's good to hear. My name is Brian Menifee. I attend Howard University. I'm from Houston, Texas. Yeah, I want to give a shout out to all the HBCUs out there. I see you. So, in the Washington, D.C. community, in my hometown and across the nation, we have seen an escalation in the brutality of the police on certain communities. I think when we want to talk about climate justice and environmental justice, we have to talk about the intersection of the criminalization of people of color. For me, coming to Power Shift was about talking with different folks, coming together from different backgrounds to discuss the intersection on these different issues. I have seen today that although we need to address the privileges that we have as individuals, there has been an energy. There's been an energy of an overall supportive movement to a collective liberation from this oppressive system. So let's shift the power away from the politicians and corporations and back to the people. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated.
Power Shift, I introduce Miss Kandi Mossett.
All right. Dosha, Maragua, Marashima A Yeshuia Het. So, hello, friends and relatives. My name is Eagle Woman, and I am Mandan Hirata Narikara, and I'm from North Dakota. I just want to give a shout out to, the original inhabitants of this land. It's really easy to forget. Yeah. Thank you. Whew. I'm a little nervous. It's nice seeing all you out there. Wow. I work with a small nonprofit called the Indigenous Environmental Network, and thank you. Yeah. I've been working with IEN since 2007, and we work on this little thing called environmental justice. And you may not know it, but we coined the term environmental justice back in the day, and yeah, we did. And people ask, like, what is that? What does that mean? What does it really mean? There's all these different definitions out there. So tonight, in these few short moments I have, I want to give you a little bit from my perspective what environmental justice is in my reality. And keep in mind, this is on top of all the pollutants that we're already dealing with in North Dakota, all the coal and all the combustion and all the things that are going on there. Now we're attacked because of this Bakken formation that we have there with hydraulic fracturing that's happening there. And a lot of people, we hear about hydraulic fracturing and we talk about natural gas and what's happening with that. And people don't realize that up there in this big, huge Bakken formation that exists not only in North Dakota, but all the way up into Canada and Minnesota and South Dakota, we have flaring going on where they're just putting it into the atmosphere. The natural gas there is a byproduct to get to the oil that's underground, and it's sick. It's like a war zone. If you come up and visit my area, you can look around at night and that's all you see is fires lighting up the sky. And I don't know if any of you have ever been to North Dakota before, but we don't really have a lot of cities or anything. And if you look at it from space, that's kind of what you see. Is it looks like cities, but that's not. It's natural gas flares going up into the atmosphere. And it really draws to mind, what in the hell are they thinking? You know, what's going on with this society right now where it's okay to just waste something that's already causing so much harm in other areas too? You know, we have trucks at home. I grew up in a town of 1,500 people, and we have a little main street, and on the edge of that main street, what you can see going through day after day, all day long, is these trucks just lined up, piled up. And all we see is our roads crumbling before our eyes. We see people getting hurt because of this traffic. And people don't realize dust is something that causes a problem. We have wheat. We have crops up there that we grow for other people to distribute around the country, and our yields are declining. So it's like, oh, environmental justice isn't just something that's affecting us there in North Dakota because that's where we are. It's affecting everybody, wherever you are, because we're not able to produce the food. And just because our air is becoming contaminated and we see ozone in our hills and our badlands, something we never saw before, doesn't mean that it stays there. It's like if a little kid pees in a swimming pool on the shallow end, you're not safe in the deep end. It's true. Yeah. Some deep thoughts that I had one day. We see things like danger signs now. Danger, you might be breathing toxic air, you know. Oh, what do? We have to breathe. What's a sign? Oh, you have a sign warning me, so therefore I'm okay, I'm gonna be okay? No. My grandma used to fast in Twin Buttes area, sacred areas. You can't even go there anymore because you see signs that say, stay out. Authorized personnel only now. We can't even go to these areas that were once sacred to us. And places that used to be used for wheat fields or sunflower fields or canola fields are now industrial zoned. That's what you see in that area, is a sign that says industrial zoned now. Perhaps the hardest thing is the headlines. You could read the headlines and kind of get a glimpse of what it's like to be in a small rural community where everybody knew each other. You could leave your doors unlocked, you could leave your car doors open, you could walk around at night, you know, like we used to do when we were little kids, and just be all bad running around, and you didn't have nothing to worry about, you know. We were the ones that were, you know, egging people's houses, you know, and doing bad things. That was the bad thing that happened in town, was us on Halloween. I'm telling on myself, I'm sorry to my teachers that I did that too. But that's what we did. That was the danger. And now, you know, I had a friend that was out at one of our local bars down on Main Street, and he gave a guy a ride home. And the guy killed him, stabbed him. He was an oil worker, and he said he made a pass at him, you know? So he stabbed him in the heart, slit his throat, started his truck on fire. But he didn't get charged, you know, with the hardest crime. It got lessened. There's little kids that got shot up because of a drug scam. They just moved to Newtown, and they were living with their grandmother to get away from their mom because she had a problem. But the people that were looking for her found her kids, shot them, killed them. This is in a town of 1,500 people. And that's what environmental justice looks like in my community. We have semis that are just coming into our little tiny rural communities like this one in the Twin Buttes area. A couple hundred people live there. And these are frack trucks. They've had chemicals in them, and they dip right into our water that people go and fill up their cisterns with. And there's flowback chemicals going in there, making our little babies sick, making people sick. They take those fluids and just put them right on the highway because they can, because it's a reservation and they can get away with it. And so they do. And they say, it's just salt water. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just a little salty. And it's got all these chemicals in there making our people sick, going right into the ditches. Whenever a blowout happens, whenever a pipeline breaks, it doesn't get discovered for a long time. By that time, it's already contaminated the water sources. They have these holding ponds out there with this torn plastic just leaking all over with these stupid little flags around them. What's that gonna keep out? And most recently, we had this spill in 26,500 gallons is what they say, 26,600 gallons. So you know it's more than that, first of all. And that's in a wheat field. And that's not, I hope they said they're not gonna feed that to you all. But who knows with the way this government is. Our system has failed us. And we ask, how are you gonna clean it up? That spill that just happened on September 29th. They started it on fire and burned the oil off the top. So again, that environmental justice issue with what's happening at my community, that toxicity that's going into that air, this happened on the 29th, we're probably breathing it by now. It probably made its way here by now. They tell us that the water's not being contaminated. So when we were swimming in our lakes at Kakawea, we took some of the water out because it looked weird. And they're like, oh, it's all right for the water to look that color. It's probably just a blue-green algae bloom, which is toxic and kills fish, and you shouldn't be swimming in it. 1 mile downstream from our water intake system. No big deal to them. I don't think they realize that the Missouri River isn't just in North Dakota, where I'm from, where this fracking is occurring, all the way down through the breadbasket, all the way down through the middle of our country, contaminating your water, our water, everybody's water. And when these trucks wreck and blow up, all that contamination goes into the air, and all these people get sick. And they run our people off the roads. My brother and my uncle were okay, thank God, when this happened to them, when they were run off the road. But then they come and they put their chemicals right next to cemeteries. This one was where I was saying goodbye to my grandmother. And just over the hill, there's a bunch of frack boxes full of chemicals because they don't care. Like I said, thank God my brother and my uncle were okay, but in 2008, when a semi was in a hurry because they got to make that money, he ran my friend Cassie off the road. And she was the kind of person that everybody really liked, you know? She was like so happy and willing to watch everybody's kids all the time. She was 23 years old when they took her life. And if they don't kill you quickly, they kill you slowly. Little kids find radioactive frack socks, fracking filters just laying out. These are supposed to be in special regulated dump sites, and we just find them out in our areas. And then you got all these men coming in, thousands and thousands of men in these man camps. So we have people being raped, we have prostitution rings, we have terrible, horrible, awful things that are happening. And that's what environmental justice is. That's what it means, these things that happen to us are injustice, actually. And how do these men that come repay us? By writing derogatory things on our dumpsters. You know, by telling us, you're lucky we did all these things we did for you in the past. What are they talking about? But our people organize and we stay together because we'd never, ever, ever give up hope. We never... It's so important to make your voices heard, to get up there and get on the microphone and tell your story and tell people, because we have a future that's worth fighting for. We have future leaders that we have to teach to fight, because when those politicians politicians are gone in 50 years, there's going to be our future that's still here. And we have to act now for their future. And I want you all to get up out of your seats. Get up, stand up. Put your hand up in the air. Put your hand up in the air. Sitting Bull said, as individual fingers, we can easily be broken. Now I want you to close your hands. But together, we make a mighty fist. And we are demanding justice, and we are demanding it now. I want you guys to tell me, what are we demanding? When are we demanding it? What do we demand? When do we demand it? What do we demand?
Do you love clean energy?
Do you want to fight for a just climate movement?
No, that was weak. Do it one more time, please. We do too. And my name's Christina Noviton.
I'm Bora Kim, and we're here representing the Sierra Club and the SSC, the youth chapter of the Sierra Club.
Woo! Now, if you say yes to any of those two questions, we need you to do two things. One, take out your cell phones. Come on, I see some of you already got it. Two, we need you to text this number. Bora, what's that number, girl?
So you need to text the word youth to 69866, because we want to work with all of you.
What's that number again, Bora?
Text the word youth to 69866. To be a part of our movement and do just those two things that we asked you. So we're here to introduce Mike Brune. He's the executive director of the Sierra Club. Give it up.
Woo!
Hello, everyone. Thank you. I want to thank Kandi for the beautiful talk she just gave. You know what they say? They say it can't be done. They say that fossil fuels are what make our country grow. They say that we need oil and gas and coal, and that our prosperity is threatened, even if we look for a better way. And they've never been more wrong. Now, there's a reason why a movement has sprung up to defeat the Keystone XL pipeline. It's the same reason why people across the country have defeated and shut down 150 dirty and deadly coal plants. It's the same reason why communities in Pennsylvania and New York and Ohio and Michigan and West Virginia and Illinois and Colorado and California and Texas and Wyoming are fighting for an end to fracking. What's happening is that the spell has been broken. Across the country, people are realizing there's a better way. Why do we have to rely on dirty fuels when clean energy does a better job? Why should we settle for the status quo when we can have power without pollution? Why should we wait for a distant clean energy future when we can have a prosperous clean energy present? Now, I don't need to tell you the stakes are high. You look at the consequences of inaction when it comes to climate change, severe storms, droughts, wildfires, destruction, we all know that we have an obligation to act and to act strongly. Here's the thing. Obligations don't spur innovation. Obligations don't change convictions. Obligations don't make history, and they don't start revolutions. So I want to talk with you tonight about opportunity. The opportunity to do something that's never been done before. The opportunity to build a society that is 100% powered with 100% clean energy. Here's what I'm talking about. We're on the path in South Dakota and Iowa, which already get 25% of their power from wind. We are on the path in Colorado, which already gets almost 30% of its power from wind and solar. We are on the path in California, which by the end of this decade will get 40% of its power from wind and solar. And this is where the tipping point happens. This change isn't going to be linear. As we get bigger and bigger inventories of clean energy, the price is coming down. The price of solar panels has dropped by 80% in 3 years. The cost of wind has dropped by 90% over the last decade. What this means is that when it comes to the price of energy, renewables are going head-to-head with fossil fuels, and they're winning. Southern California, a new gas plant was shelved because solar came in cheaper. Ten years ago, none of the so-called experts predicted this would happen. Nobody predicted that the price of solar would drop so fast. Nobody predicted that our movement would be so strong. But here's something else that most people don't realize. All of these clean energy victories, they're irreversible. They're irreversible. We're on a one-way trip. Once we put fossil fuels in our rearview mirror, we are never going back. We are living in the middle of a clean energy revolution. We're living in the middle of a clean energy revolution. To make this revolution even more of a reality, we need the president to trade in his all-of-the-above energy policy for an all-in on clean energy policy. If we do that, our country can have a fossil-free power sector by 2030. That means that your little brothers, your little sisters, by the time they're in grad school, every time they flip a switch, every time we turn on the lights, every time we power up our home, all of it, all of that power will be free of fossil fuels. So what's standing in our way? You know, people talk about coal companies and gas companies and Exxon and Chevron and even the Koch brothers as though they're invincible. They're not. They're dangerous, they're reckless, they're often criminal, but their influence is overblown. It's overblown. Fossil fuel companies are like zombies from the apocalypse. They don't know they're already dead. So the real war that we're declaring isn't on coal or fracking or oil or any other dirty fuel. The real war is on pessimism. We need an end to pessimism. We need an end to the kind of pessimism that limits our ambition. Not our ambition, their ambition. that limits their willingness to fight for big ideas like 100%. Because what I know is that there's nobody more equipped for this fight than the people here in this room. Look around. You've already ignored the doubters, you've stared down the powerful, you've rejected the cynics, and you know how to win. So think about what we can do together. Something that has never been done before, powering our society with 100% clean energy. So, to get us started, I'm going to ask you all to do 3 things in 55 seconds. First, come occupy the Sierra Club. We are member-driven, so take us over. We're a Democratic-run organization. Whether you're a student or a teacher, if you're working in maintenance here in the building, if you spend your time with another NGO, we have room for you. We need you. We are run by volunteers. You become a member, you can run the Sierra Club. Run for election to run the Sierra Club in your city, in your state. Run for the board of election for our, run to be on the board of our, run to be on our damn board, that's what I'm trying to say. Come occupy the Sierra Club. Make it yours. And second, I want you all to take out your cell phones. I'm going to need 1 more minute. All right. All right. Now, take out your camera. Take a picture of this awesome crowd. Bonus points if you get yourself in it. I'm going to do it too. Smile. All right. Now, all right, you ready? Now open up Twitter or Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, whatever works for you. All right, now, hold on. This is the important part. Now post it, and when you post it, say over 6,000 of us commit to 100% clean energy. Add, all right, you with me? Add whatever hashtags you want. Hashtag 100%, hashtag PowerShift, hashtag Justin Timberlake, hashtag Act on Climate. Tweet your best friend, tag your friends, tweet the president. You can tag me at Brune, tag the club at Sierra Club. I'm going to post this right after I'm done, so make sure you tag yourself there too. Y'all do it, if you have a connection? Here's the deal. We just committed, publicly. We just told 500,000 of our friends, our followers, our enemies, that we don't buy your pessimism. We've told them that we will stop at nothing less than 100%. We've told them that we know it's 100% possible. We are all in. So when you go home, keep this energy alive. Make it an art project. Take pictures. Make art, make stencils, make decals. Write short stories. Tattoo it over your heart. This is the new world. 100% clean energy. Make it your own. 100% clean energy universities, 100% clean energy dive bars, 100% clean energy coffee houses. And by the time most of you are my age, there's going to be no more coal, no more frack gas to power our lives. No more mountaintops to be destroyed. Rather than building a pipeline that divides our country, we'll be building high-speed rail lines to bring us together. Rather than exporting natural gas, rather than exporting coal, we'll be exporting innovation. We'll be exporting confidence. We'll be exporting solutions. 100% clean energy. Are you in? Are you in? Thank you. All right, so now we've got DJ Ron, 3 more acts. I love you, you're beautiful.
Give it up for yourselves, Power Shift. Really? Give it up for yourselves, Power Shift.
Power Shift!
You guys ready to party now? Who's staying to party? You guys ready for Chippy Nonstop? Are you guys ready for Chippy Nonstop?
Let's get it crunk, Power Shift!
Do just what the song says.